burning brighter somewhere. Got to be birds flying higher in a sky more blue.
Good morning. Welcome to Right Thinking with Steve Copeland. I'm your host, Steve Copeland, and thank you for tuning in. Let's have a great day. Good morning, everybody. Glad to be with you today. Today is a very, very special day for me, not only because of the guests that I'm going to have on that you're just absolutely going to love, but because today is my anniversary. So I just want to say, Donna, happy anniversary, baby. Got you on my mind. I love you. And so that's what I wanted to say. Anyway, so I know everybody's getting ready for July the 4th, and July the 4th is just a fantastic day because of the freedom that we celebrate here in America. And I encourage you to go back to the show that I did last year on July the 4th. I've got about 16 or 17 patriotic songs in there that I picked. And it's just a very patriotic song from last year. So everybody be safe this year. Watch the traffic. It's one of the busiest days of the year. But with that said, I am ready to get started with today. Last week, I did a show with Jim Stovall and Wisdom for Winners that he lets me use his wisdom from his book series. And I had a wonderful week because I sent Jim Stovall an email and to thank him. And I had a conversation with him on Tuesday, I think it was. And as I try to tell everybody, we all need mentors. We all need life coaches. We all need friends. We all need the Lord. And one of the very best places that you can go to get a very, very positive role model mentor is in an author, in a book, someone that you just love where they're coming from. And so I am just so very fortunate that Jim Stovall has given me the privilege to get to know him a little bit. And I got to ask all of you, just so you realize how excited I am about knowing Jim Stovall. He's written 30, 40 books. He's got 10 million books that have been published. He's just an incredibly important person. He's earned that through his life by being who he is. And I just love it that he gives me the time when I call him and talks to me. And he suggested to me that I listen to a podcast that he just heard from a guy named Tim Ferriss, who's got the Tim Ferriss Show. He'd done an episode on, and he interviewed 3 people in prisons. It was Tim Ferriss's first time in prisons. And so I liked it that Jim Stovall tipped me onto that. I listened to it, and Jim Stovall is such a good person. He let me know to listen to Tim Ferriss, but Tim Ferriss is considered to be the #1 business podcast in the world with over 200 million likes. So maybe we'll get Right Thinking with Steve Copeland to that level. So thank you, Jim Stovall, for being in my life. Today's show is kind of a follow-up with a real live person that we allude to. 2 weeks ago, when we did a rebroadcast of my wife's show, The Functional Family, a Positive Model, the show we did 2 weeks ago, we called it Making a Difference. And what we're focusing on is not the dysfunctional things that we all see that people go through that cause them to have a hard time in life, but really what is the model for having it done the right way? And so this is a beautiful story that we're going to be sharing today of a person's their life. I'm going to introduce you to a person that I was introduced to from Thomas McRae. Was episode 38 last November, and that one was called Keeping the Dream Alive. Thomas is a writer, and I see Thomas producing scripts for TV shows, movies, things like that. He's become a very close friend of mine. He's written a couple books. Pimp in the Pulpit was the first one, and then he followed it up. But he's a poet. He's probably published about 12 or 13 books now. And he met today's guest because she reviews other people's books as part of what she does. And so Thomas introduced me in February, and wanted to see if I could get her on the show. So let me tell you what today's show is. It's Right Thinking with Steve Copeland. I'm very pleased to announce that this week's guest will be Jessica Stokes, a young, successful business owner. Tune in and be inspired by Jessica, a role model with much to say as the voice of our young generation. You're going to learn a lot as Steve and Jessica offer advice to young, aspiring entrepreneurs. So that's my lead in. And what I want to say is Jessica is a breath of fresh air. She's a young person that's very focused, doing great things with her life. So I just want to kind of introduce her to you, and I've got some questions that are going to maybe help everybody lead their lives a little bit better, maybe do some good things because of the influence that you get from Jessica Day. Jessica, are you with us now?
Yes, I'm here.
Well, thank you so much for wanting to be on the show. I'm very impressed with what I know about you. You are a role model. That's what I said. For those of you listening, I talked to Jessica earlier this week for 45 minutes or so, and I did talk to her back in February when Thomas first introduced me. And when I talked to Jessica this week, I offered her an apology because we were all prepared to do a show, but we never did the show because over the last 3-4 months, I've had constant themes of Design Your Empowered Year and talking about the 85%. And I was very focused on the prison population and the children of the incarcerated population that I work with. And so I felt very, very bad. And I called Jessica up to apologize to her. And Jessica, you made me feel really, really good, as forgiving and as kind you were when I told you I was sorry that I never followed up with you. So Jessica, you're a nice person. Tell me about yourself, Jessica. What do you do, Jessica? Let's get started with what do you do, and we'll get into a lot of detail, but I want to find out how you got to be the person that you are. But the people that are listening, they don't know the person that you are until they get to hear you a little bit. So Jessica, who are you?
Well, I like to describe myself as a creative. Ever since I was young, I've always been one who likes to create. I've always loved to write. I've always loved music and art and things like that. And I come from a creative family. So a lot of times I like to describe myself as such. But as time has gone on, a lot of people, they just know me as I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a businesswoman. I'm a busybody. A lot of people like to say that I'm a busybody. I'm from a small town called Pontotoc in Mississippi. We're in the northeastern section of Mississippi. And I come from a family of people who like to challenge the status quo. We didn't like to follow rules. We like to kind of things our own way, follow the beat of our own drum. So I feel like that's kind of, it's been passed down to me. I'm the youngest of 4 girls. My parents have been married for over 30 years. And I just love being able to help people follow their dreams, help people pursue their passions, and just help build up my community around.
That's beautiful. Hey, let me give a compliment to your parents. In the 45 minutes or so that I talked to you this week and the hour back in February, I've come to know you as a person that at a young age. Do you mind if I tell people how old you are?
Sure.
She's 92. Now, I'm laughing because I said in the introduction the word young several times. But I'm so impressed with you, Jessica. You're 23 years old. Is that correct?
Yes.
So, listeners, Jessica's 23 years old, and she has got wisdom and maturity and a work ethic that's to be greatly admired. But as my wife Donna on the Functional Family Show brought out, it's so important what the parents do as they bring up their child. Let me read a couple of scriptures here that I think say this off. This one is dedicated to your parents for what they've done to raise you. Proverbs 22:6. Start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it. So congratulations to your parents for raising a fine young daughter. Here's one, though, that is geared toward young people. This is 1 Timothy 4:12. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. And Jessica, I know that you do that. Here's one for all of us. Ecclesiastes 12:1. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the days of trouble come and the years approach when you will say, I find no pleasure in them. In other words, if you know the Lord when you're young, when troubles come later, you'll be able to get right through them. And so here's one, Jessica, that I think that you definitely follow. Jeremiah 1:7-9. But the Lord said to me, do not say I am too young. You must go to everyone I send you to and say whatever I command you. Do not be afraid of them, For I am with you and will rescue you, declares the Lord. That's a message. That's a message that's basically saying, even though you're young, have confidence and know that the Lord is with you. So Jessica, I really, really like it that I've got you on the show today, and I want to listen to you for a while because, you come from a family that your parents are still together, married for 30-some years. You've had a nice opportunity in life. And I asked you the other day, do you think that a lot of the friends of yours, when in other words, I ask you, have you ever been through a lot of hardship? Let me ask you that again right now. Have you ever had to go through a lot of hardship in your life, Jessica?
Honestly, no, I haven't. I've been fortunate enough to not have to, go through any major things or changes or anything.
Well, when I asked you that the other day, that's praise the Lord, thank the Lord for that, because you told me that you have some friends that and they don't have the same stable family that you come from, and so what's it like when you're around your friends? Do they ever turn to you to want to learn more about what stable life looks like?
Yeah, initially, it was kind of awkward for me, because a lot of my friends either, their families were broken by divorce or, a parent was in jail or, something like that. So it was kind of awkward for me to say, yeah, my dad's in the home, or, they'd ask me where my dad was at, and I'm like, well, he's at work or he's at home, so it initially made me feel bad. But after a while, I was like, this isn't something that I should be ashamed of. I should be proud of this because this is the way families are supposed to be. And a lot of my friends, they do ask me, what it's like to have a father in the home. What's it like to be around your dad all the time? And, I'm more than happy to talk to them about it. Or I've even had friends that they've asked to speak to my parents. And thankfully, my parents are the type of people, they're very giving people and they're very open people. So they're always willing to talk to my friends, to be mentors to my friends, to be like second parents to my friends. And, just kind of give them some of that stability that they don't have in their own family. So I'm very thankful for that.
That's beautiful. And again, I am so glad that as Donna's point, I think Donna's show, my wife Donna, that did the Functional Family and Positive Model, when she basically just said, everybody's always talking about all the dysfunctions and addressing life as to how do we deal with these dysfunctions. She said, why don't we try to show everybody what it's supposed to really look like in a family, and so that they can start thinking it. One of the things I've learned in all the people that I work with that are coming out of incarceration is a lot of them, they don't really know when they go home what it's supposed to be that they're supposed to try to have their family look like, with the kind of positive atmosphere that they should be creating because they've never seen it. So it's a pleasure to have you be a person that has come from a positive family, a good background. And I like what you said in the very beginning, that y'all have always challenged the status quo. So that's a beautiful thing. So Jessica, you have your own business. Is that correct?
Yes. Lady Scribe is a creative marketing company here based in my hometown of Pontotoc. And basically, we're a full-service marketing business, so we can do anything from social media management, websites, graphic design, copywriting, and general business consulting. I started in 2016. That's when my business became official, but I've kind of been doing this since about 2012, 2013.
Well, let me do the math for a second. This is 2018, and you started working toward your business in 2012, which is 6 years ago, and you're 23 years old. So let me subtract 6 from 23. I'm writing it down to make sure I don't mess it up here. Jessica, when you were 17 years old, you started laying out the groundwork for a business that you're going to have.
Right.
Talk about that. That's great.
I started out. I wanted to be a writer, basically since I can remember, and so that's kind of where I started. I started out as a freelance writer.